George, let's talk about knee sway and hip sway. You know, those are two of the biggest mistakes I see through amateurs and even young players.
Absolutely.
From your perspective, from a medical perspective, what causes that?
So when you have that, one of the main things that I see is somebody's inability to rotate around the hip.
Gotcha.
So it could be from a muscle or joint perspective, but once we've cleared some things, we move on to the system and try to just get that system to open up around the hip. So one thing, we're going to use the Rotex here. Corey's going to hop on. We're going to look at his trail side.
Okay.
So for this one thing we could do from the very beginning is he's just using his right leg and trying to turn or internally rotate his hip. He's going to hold it for 3 to 5 seconds, and then he's going to relax. Yes, you're probably going to have a little cramping.
Right.
Should be in the outside of this hip. And here we're just focusing on the trail hip here.
Now, when I do this, I'm not wanting to rotate.
Correct. You're going to watch. So if you see your player's pelvis kind of shift or go back like this, you want to keep your hips as still as you can as you turn in. So he's going to do about 5 to 10 reps of this, holding it for, again, 3 to 5 seconds. And then after this, he's going to go back to neutral. He's going to rotate his torso as far as he can towards me.
Am I rotating hips as well?
Nope.
Okay,
just
torso.
Just torso.
Okay.
Then once he gets to his end of range, he's going to go in with his hip again. Should feel a little bit more intensity.
Yep.
Hold it, same thing, 3 to 5 seconds. Then you're going to relax here. Then you're going to rotate more towards me.
Just upper.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And then you're coming in again, holding 3 to 5 seconds, relax, and then go back to the start. Okay. So this is something that Corey sees these flaws. We come over here, we get a little activation in that hip, open up the hip, allow the player not only to improve the rotation on that side, so we get less knee sway, less things moving down the chain, and then it also gives the player a familiarity of what it feels like to load and rotate into that side instead of sway.
Well, I think that's one of the biggest things with the players I work with is they don't really understand the feeling of what it, you know, when you say you load into that side, they don't really know what that feels like.
Yeah.
And this thing gives you obviously some really good feedback because I'm sweating. So this gives you some pretty good feedback on what that actually feels like into that right glute for sure.
Absolutely. So whether you're in the gym, you have a plan to work on opening up a rotation around the hips, or if you're practicing in the facility that has something like this or similar, ideally this would be, we love this because of the way it's inclined inward and allows you to kind of post up without shifting any more weight out than is needed. So put this in your practice routine when you're doing drills, trying to make a change this winter.
Gotcha. I like it.
If you don't have a Rotex to be able to work on what it feels like to load up on that side, we're going to show you a drill. You can use an elevated stool, or you can even use a bench. But basically it's going to be so you can feel what it feels like to load up on that side and feel the tension. So Corey's going to demonstrate it with us, and he's going to start standing. Sorry.
Stand.
For this drill, you want to square your feet. So obviously in the golf swing, we open up a little bit to help rotation and weight shift, but in order to work through a restriction, we want to have your feet square, so when we're rotating, we're taking up the slack or the tension in the system in the hip. So what he's going to do is he's going to put his hands on the front of his pelvis. You have 2 bony prominences, one on each side, and he's basically going to be rotating towards one side, and he's trying to bring this front of his pelvis almost closer to that foot, and he's going to hinge slightly at the hip, sticking his butt back. You should feel this in the right of the hip. If you don't feel this, check and make sure this foot is square, and you may need to hinge at the chest a little bit more. Excuse me, hinge at the hips, bring the chest down. So he should, again, feel a pretty deep stretch in the back of the right hip, holding it for about 3 to 5 seconds, then coming back. He could do a handful on this side, and then eventually working into the opposite side as well.
It's funny because, you know, this is for me, right-handed, my lead side, so this is used to working back and with some more speed, so I don't feel it as much on this side as I do this side.
Then again, another thing, if you don't feel this, you could check in with the knees and make sure this knee isn't kicking out, even though your foot is squared. So trying to keep this knee, this foot, everything is quiet, and you're just having the opposite pelvis work towards as you work back.
I know one of the things working with a lot of players is just gaining the feels, you know what I'm saying, of different exercises and different things to be able to gain the feel that you need, because some exercises, some feel more other ones players may feel a little bit differently or more, so you just find the one that works best for that player. And this one, for me, the Rotex, I feel it a little bit more, but this one has a little different feel, kind of hamstring as well.
Yeah. Then again, you see the stool behind him. He's working into a little bit more of a flex position at the hips, and yep, go ahead and sit down. So obviously, if we're in a little bit of a squatter position as we rotate both sides in the golf swing. So standing up from a stool, sitting back down, and then going to the opposite side, kind of working into this, allows you to kind of sit down into it. A little bit more of a posture related to golf, a little bit more of an athletic.
This one I can feel more because of being more down.
Yeah, so you can play around with whether you do a standing, and then we can even go to a lower stool than this. Again,
sit down, I'm exhausted.
Hey, whatever you need. But actually, incorporating this again as you're practicing, or if you're doing a handful of movements before you hit balls, just to again incorporate the feels of what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, I think it's a great way to also like wake the muscles up. You know what I'm saying? Like before you start, just something to get you going as well.
Absolutely.
Along with that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
George, let's continue a little bit on the theme of the right knee sway and the right hip sway. So if you're practicing, when you're hitting balls, and obviously we don't have any of the devices that we may have in the gym, a simple thing, a slide board that we have there, or like a piece of cardboard that can move around, is a really good way to kind of stabilize that right knee, right hip, and really get deeper into the turn for the right side. So let's go ahead and do a couple exercises. Go ahead and stand on that. And we're going to do the same thing as we did. You're going to feel it twist in. So yeah, there we go, good. And then now turn back. There we go, good. So we're really trying to twist this foot in like that with a slide board, stabilize it, and then really, really keep that turned in. Good, go again.
Uncoil the whole thing every time?
Yes. Good, so twist, there we go, good. There, nice, good, good. Good, all right, now let's kick the slide disc out. Now let's do a practice backswing, feeling that, oops, sorry, there you go, good catch. Great throw.
Hands.
So now just try to feel that stabilization of that right side. There you go, good. So when you're doing this, we should feel a lot of tension right back in here, deep push here, probably even the quad, you know what I'm saying, might be lighting up a little bit. So that'll add the stabilization. Do you feel a lot more loading in there as well? Okay. Now let's go ahead and hit one just nice and smooth and really focus in on that.
Is this slow, full?
Speed-wise, we're going about 60%. Length-wise, we're going 100, if that makes sense. There you go, good. So what we want to do is we would want to hit 5, and then bring the slide disc back over, do another 5, then hit 5. Okay, and just go back and forth like that. So like I said, this is a great thing to do on the driving range if you're not in the gym. It's a piece of cardboard, a slide disc, anything that can kind of slide around on the surface that you're on to really help feel that rotation on the inside and that loading of the right hip.
And even, I'm assuming even if you don't have anything to go underneath the trail foot, could you just pre-position here and then take a slow back swing?
Yes.
You don't have anything?
Yep.
Just focus on feeling the back of the hip.
Yeah, feeling that back there. That's another way to do it, absolutely.
And then you like these 60%, you don't need to necessarily hold and then swing, but just slower.
Just go slow. Yeah, speed-wise 60%. Length, we want 100 so we can feel what it feels like in that full motion with the golf swing, and also feeling our body in those changes. The slower we go, the more you can feel. You know what I'm saying? So we want to keep everything at that slow pace. Let's go ahead and hit one more.
Yep.
So he's really feeling that upper leg, coil in, load in. There you go, really good. That was hit. That was good.
Yeah. And then would you recommend low to mid irons for this drill, wedges? How would you?
I would go kind of mid to 5, 6, kind of your practice club. And a good club is your 6-iron. It's kind of right in the middle of the set, lengthwise and all that stuff. So a 6-iron works great for this.